This episode is brought to you by Mortgage Workflow Partners and the Mastering Encompass series, both for users as well as administrators. You can find out all the information about it over at masterengencompass.com. Also, if you'd like to check out what we're doing on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel using the @MasteringEncompass handle. And make sure you stay up to date on all the information, not just with podcasts, but also video content that we bring to you as often as possible. Now let's get on to the episode. Hey everyone, welcome. My name's Larry Bailey. We're coming to you live from ICE X25. We've got a great show for you to go through. We got 4 big guests coming on. We've got Housing Wire here, Mortgage Champions, Sharky Bright, and Adopt the Brand. We're going to have a lot of guests here. I want you to stay tuned. We've got just 15-minute segments with each guest so we can make sure that we get in and out. We're going to ask some really important questions, things that only they can tell us from their perspective. And let's get going. Hey everybody, welcome back. Larry Bailey here, Mortgage Workflow Partners. We've got our next and final guest of today's installment of our wonderful podcast here at ICE X25. We've got Mike Kelleher here from Adopt the Brand. Mike and I actually met a while ago, and we've done a lot of things collaboratively. And so, Mike, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
I appreciate you inviting me. The energy here is amazing, and this is one of the most impressive podcast studios I have ever seen.
Yeah, you do you have a podcast, you do interviews, you've done some great interviews. This should be like old hat for you.
It will be, I think, but I'm still feeling very professional right now.
Okay. All right, well, we can loosen it up. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody like who you are, what you do, why you make, why you matter. What is it that you're doing to make a difference?
So my claim to fame was I was a loan officer, and then I created the mobile app in mortgage really through cold calling. So came up with an idea to lift the cloak of mystery for the mortgage process, provide some transparency during TRID in 2013, and really forced an industry that wasn't ready for mobile to come up with the idea that they should have an app that you should download.
When was that? I don't remember. I know
It was January 28th, 2013, we came up with the idea, and we launched it with Poli in March or April of that same year. And then we had...
So you had a 5-month turn on an app from concept to live?
Yeah, it was pretty...
In 2013?
2013.
That's remarkable.
And we used, since we're here, we got lucky. We had a old Delmar SDK
integration
that we bought for like $7,500, and it worked for 3 years before it broke, and it saved. And then from there, it obviously cost a lot of money to integrate. But that's how we were able to bootstrap, and we ended up having 212 lenders on our platform. We processed.
I still think I was working with someone or knew about your app, and I remember seeing it going, okay, this is cool. I'm not really sure about it, but it seems like it's cool. But no, it was a big deal. It was a really big deal.
The biggest part of what it made, along with the stories and the journey, is, and I have not seen a software since, but when I called, I would just say Victor Shirelli from Guaranteed Rate, call the receptionist, who's in charge of your iPhone, and they would be like, I don't know, I think
What
Victor
is.
Yeah, and so I could get right through to Victor. Obviously now there's gatekeepers on every software in here, right? And you never get to the CEO. You get to the CIOs. Really didn't do technology the way they do today. They were more in charge of infrastructure, Ethernet,
Right. Yeah.
right? Scanning and the document going on the internet to a computer.
Hardware. Yeah, very hardware.
So now it's all delegated. It's very hard to get to the CEO. So Adopt the Brand is really my Rolodex of all CEOs, because I was lucky enough to have a software where I ended up just talking directly to the CEO all those years. And I wanted to help lenders adopt their vendor software better, but it's really more evolved into connecting lenders with the solutions that other lenders are using that they might not know about.
I got you. All right, cool. So really what I take from that is you're making sure people know what's going on, what it's good for. Do you go as far as like how to use it, or just make the connections of, hey, here's this thing that's going on. You probably need this because I know your business, and you should probably go check this out.
Yeah, and I even say, look, every vendor has a bad implementation or a bad story. And so I almost help lenders find that bad story.
Okay.
And so it's like when you go to restaurants, you try to read the bad reviews to see if you want to go or not. You don't read the good reviews, right?
And
then you
the
say,
good reviews are easy.
Yes.
Let me see what the problems are.
And that's really where I try to help, because otherwise you don't really need me. Like, there's great salespeople and there's great ability to find out what's going on in the industry. I try to help lenders talk to similar size lenders, and before they make that decision, they can at least know more about what went into that software installment, what went into the adoption, and then make a better decision.
I love it. So do
Yeah.
you see, I mean, again, it's been a while, right? So you've been through a lot of different cycles, as have I. Are you seeing anything changing in the business landscape? Obviously, we had a little bit of news earlier this week. Little purchase happened, right, with Rocket and Redfin. Um, M&As have never not happened. Like, it's not brand new, but do you still see anything changing? Like, you have a different perspective than most.
Yeah, I can go there. So I think the mortgage calculator is about to change big time.
Mortgage calculator?
So the number one searched item that people do when they go for a home is
I was not expecting you to say that.
they search for a mortgage calculator, right? And so
Yeah,
a lot of people go to Zillow, and Zillow 2 years ago was just a mortgage company. Now they are going to close $7 billion, which puts them in the top 50.
Because of the mortgage calculator?
So where else do they go? We've known this for years since I was originating. Bankrate.com. Well,
Right,
Red
Bankrate.
Ventures owns Bankrate, and Sage Mortgage is up to about 180 loan officers now. And so pretty soon when you go to Bankrate.com, you will just be applying for a mortgage in the calculator.
Yeah, it's no more everybody else's rate sheets.
Almost every calculator now is going to be a top 50 lender. So you need to figure out, I believe, a solution for that as a lender. And Owen Lee was on my podcast, and he said the IMBs
From Success Mortgage Partners.
from Success Mortgage
Yep,
Partners.
Yep.
And he said something very interesting. He said the lenders that don't make it are going to be losing 1 to 2 deals that they never knew they lost. And over the course of 3
It's just gonna
years,
build up.
they won't realize what was chipping away like a bad foundation, right?
He's a very smart individual.
Mhm.
That guy sees things way, way down the road. That's an interesting thing. And I talk about when I do workflow reviews, somebody asked me, like, well, where would you start first? Like, I had this question yesterday from a potential client. And they're like, well, here's our situation. Where would you start first? I said, in your post-closing, in your accounting. So that's where I'm going to find out where your problems are, and that's where I'm going to find out the money that you're not making that you thought you were making. And those are the kinds of things. So from your end, you're seeing I'm going to interpret. You're seeing consolidation, but you're also seeing these macro moves that were very easy to spot if you knew what to look for.
Yes, like that's a pretty easy to spot if you look for it,
Right.
but it's a blind spot nonetheless. And I'm worried that lenders are not going to pick up on it in time.
Okay.
And it sounds too simple to fix, but if you don't fix it tomorrow,
So it's the engagement, though. It's why do I go to you? Like, if we talk about why does a mortgage calculator exist, it's because they don't have it on borrowers don't have it on their phone. We might, but borrowers don't. They go to a website, they Google pops up a thing, mortgage calculator. It's on Bankrate or Zillow or
you just
whatever.
said the two, right? Two
Right?
large mortgage companies,
Right.
yes.
And that's what you go to.
Yeah, and they're just going to have to figure it out because it's not,
That's crazy.
it's all new. Like both of those companies, it's like a year into this of dominating, right? It's not like they've been dominating forever, so it's not your fault if you're a little behind
It
here.
was kind of I don't know the numbers here, but it's not. I mean, it's not like it's been this. It seems like it's been a hockey stick.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I believe just working on your workflow and focusing more on local and maybe realizing when to bring it back in a little bit locally. I mean,
Right,
like
locally, yeah.
geographically.
Someplace that you can control. in
Control,
your area.
I think that might be a good strategy.
What do you think about AI and automation everywhere? Right. All we heard. I was saying this to a guest here earlier. About 18 months ago, we thought everybody's going to be losing their jobs to AI in the mortgage space. Right. That was the big article. Obviously, we've got a couple thousand people in here that at least are still employed.
Yeah.
Out of the group. You think it's swinging too far? Do you think AI, automation, et cetera, do you think it's been swung too far, too fast?
No, I don't think there's many jobs left to cut, but when we scale up, rate refi boom comes, then it'll be less hiring. So those would have been the
Okay.
jobs, right? I think there's 1 or 2 players in the game that are much better than everybody else, but I won't come on your podcast to plug them. But I will say I have a pet peeve with the Chat GPT. Like,
Tell me about it. Let it out.
so I think it's so easy to come up with your own GPT. And so that's why I think
did it. I didn't like the outcome. I shut it down, but I did it.
yes. And so, because you can load them in, and then if you feel like you have more PDFs and documents and
Right.
job
Just
aids
keep
and,
going.
and GSEs, So a lot of people are rolling that out, and I don't think they understand that the model of which they're building it on, or the documents, or if rules change in Fannie Mae, and whether they upload a new PDF.
Well, that's what I was saying
not...
last night at dinner. So I was helping a client try to develop their own internal, and I said, you need to make sure you understand that you have to take out the old
Yep.
when you put in the new. Otherwise, you're going to get bad results.
That's exactly what I was saying. Yes, you couldn't said it any better. And I do think like there'll be companies that think in years, and then there'll be companies that think in decades, right? Like they say China thinks in centuries, and we
Sure.
think in years.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's sort of AI. I would rather work with, I'll just plug you. I'd rather work with you for 3 years, let somebody else figure it out and copy them in 3 years than try to be a mortgage tech company when I'm really just a mortgage company, right? And I think that distraction, the future is going to be, if you really want to play that game, every consumer is going to have a mortgage AI operator.
I gotcha.
And so how is your mortgage company going to talk to those AI operators, not to humans? Because they'll talk and they'll do all the work. I don't think you need the good AI, because the consumer, I don't know, 5-7 years from now is going to have their own car shopping bot, their own mortgage bot. It will go do the research, and it'll come back and talk to them and help them make a decision. And it's not that far off now.
We'll have to replay this in a few years to see if you were right.
I don't think it's very far off. The AI operator, the CTO from HubSpot has created a pretty big company there. It's far out, 5 years, but it's not that far out.
So to give you a final question here.
Yeah. This is fun.
So do you think people, if you imagine this future where people are just kind of going, hey, AI, go do this thing, are people going to be buying from people or buying from the brand?
I think people will buy, I think it'll be different. If you're doing Fannie or Freddie and it goes out of conservatorship, I think you're kind of toast. So you're going to want to do non-QM, low to moderate income, help, not the traditional 780. Those people will do it with wherever Fannie and Freddie is, and it'll probably be in realtor.com. But everything else, I think will be people.
It'll be the people.
Yeah. In fact, I'll tell you, I think in the future, I say it, if people follow me, they'll be the loan officers and realtors will work with the people to get the source data.
Right.
And they'll bring it to the ICE exchange, and they'll get $250 in their bank account. And then the ICE exchange, this is like 5-6 years from now, will have a marketplace of different rate opportunities, but then you'll also be able to work with the loan officer to pick one.
I gotcha.
So loan officers aren't going anywhere, in my opinion.
You just went so far out there, but you're seeing it. So we'll have to see if it happens.
I'll be back in 7 years.
Yeah. Let's come back and see it. Any last questions for me?
Everybody is all in on all these new launches of ICE.
Yeah.
How does somebody manage multiple launches at the same time? Can one person do it?
No, it's really tough. And when you say launch, you mean product updates, right?
There's like a bunch of them. Great ones.
Yeah. So there's five major updates this weekend with 25.1. And so, no, it's really tough. So what I can tell you, what we try to do is to boil down the major parts of what's happening into digestible chunks for somebody to realize what they need. So kind of like where the companies don't pay attention to everything, just pay attention to what matters to you. But getting to what matters to you is hard. So I break it down to make sure people can get to it easy, can search to it easy. That's on masteringencompass.com. Like not only is the content searchable, but the videos and the transcripts are searchable. So if you're like, oh, this thing happened, I remember it saying, you could search for it real quick just to find that stuff. I think that's the way automation technically can help people get through these large events. But the velocity of changes is really tough. And so now we actually spent a lot of time with help desk support and getting admins to focus on the jobs they were hired for instead of trying to do everything.
And are you offering now, because I hear a lot of people asking, the ability to contract like an extra Encompass admin for the next 9 months to be able to handle this?
Yeah, it can be next 9 months, next 9 weeks. It can be to the month to month. It can be for a specific portion of it. So just if it's just TPO versus just retail. Like you, I've been around a while, so I know what people tend to need. So
I can't stress enough, you need to go to left up funnel and work with him to get more on the manufacturing and just get your head out of there.
I appreciate that.
You can't see the picture if you're in the frame.
You're just dropping knowledge.
That's right.
It's good stuff. Mike, thanks for coming today.
Thank you,
appreciate
Larry.
it. All right, we'll see you next time. And that brings us to the end of the Mortgage Workflow Partners podcast for today from the ICE Mortgage Technology Experience 25. Thanks very much. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.